have with us tonight Ron Unz, who is a theoretical physicist by training. It's actually a return for him of sorts, as he graduated from Harvard as an undergraduate. Mr. Unz is the chairman of Wall Street Analytics, a Palo Alto-based financial services software company that he founded in New York City in 1987. In addition to his degree from Harvard, he holds graduate degrees from Cambridge University and Stanford. He's long been interested in public policy issues. In 1994, he launched a surprise Republican primary challenge to incumbent Governor Pete Wilson of California, running on a conservative pro-immigrant platform against the prevailing political sentiment, and received 34% of the vote, which is extraordinary for a novice. Later that year, he campaigned as a leading opponent of Proposition 187, the anti-immigration initiative, and spoke at many rallies, including one for 70,000 people. I was part of a pro-immigrant march in Los Angeles, and it was the largest political rally in California history. So you can see he's on different, it's very hard to typecast him, I think, in terms of what his political persuasion is, and I think he loves to keep it that way. In 1997, Mr. Unz began the English for the Children Initiative campaign in California after learning of boycotts by Hispanic parents against Spanish language programs in the Los Angeles area. He drafted Proposition 227 and led the campaign to qualify and pass the measure, culminating in a victory at the polls on June 2nd, 1998. Following the passage of the California measure, he assisted activists in Arizona in passing their own anti-bilingual education initiative, and he's now established a national advocacy organization, English for the Children, to replace bilingual education with English immersion throughout the country. I'm sure it was good news for him as he flew in. Today, it was announced that there are enough signatures had been secured to get the bilingual initiative on the ballot in November. Mr. Unz has authored hundreds of articles that have appeared on issues ranging from campaign reform to vouchers to China, appearing in publications like the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, National Review, and the New Republic. Catherine Snow, as many of you know, is on the faculty here at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. She's the Henry Lee Shattuck Professor of Education in the Human Development and Psychology area. Catherine is an expert on language and literacy development in children, focusing on how oral language skills are acquired and how they relate to literacy outcomes. Catherine recently chaired a National Academy of Sciences committee that prepared the report, Preventing Reading Difficulties in Young Children. Her current research activities include a longitudinal study of language and literacy skills among low-income children who have been followed for 13 years since age 3. Various attempts to develop consensus among teacher educators concerning what pre- and in-service reading teachers need to know about language and about literacy, and following the language development of young children participating in the early Head Start intervention, as well as studying the vocabulary development of first and second language learners. She's also considering various aspects of transfer from first to second language in the domains of language and literacy. Catherine has written about bilingualism and its relation to language policy issues, such as bilingual education in the United States and in developing nations, and about testing policy. She has also, I believe, just stepped down as the past president of the American Education Research Association. She's written a number of books and publications, including Starting Out Right, a guide to promoting children's reading success, Preventing Reading Difficulties in Young Children, and an article for psycholinguistics entitled Bilingualism and Second Language Acquisition. Moderating is Tony Randolph, who many of you know from that voice in your head. I was thrilled to meet Tony because she's been traveling with me in my car and at home for years. I think we all think of WBUR as part of our families, and I was so astonished to meet her in person that she actually exists out of my radio. But of course, she's a marvelous person tapping into all of the current educational issues, and we were so pleased that she agreed to moderate tonight's discussion. She's worked at WBUR for the past 5.5 years. She began her broadcast journalism career in commercial radio, a little bit of a dirty word in public radio, but I guess they've forgiven you. And soon after graduating from State University, New York College at Buffalo with a degree in journalism, she also earned a master's degree from the Graduate School of Journalism at Columbia. Her first job in public radio was as news director at WBFO-FM in her hometown of Buffalo, New York. She later worked as news director in Newark, New Jersey before moving to Boston in 1996. And at WBUR, Tony covers general news stories, including things like the Big Dig, which we're having a program on in 2 weeks, affordable housing, and of course, education. So from now on, Tony's ruling the roost. She may look gentle, but I can assure you she's quite firm. And so thank you all for coming tonight, and we're off.
Thank you, Dottie. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much, all of you, for coming out tonight to what I hope will be an interesting and informative debate on bilingual education. Before we hear from tonight's panelists, I just want to take a couple of moments to give you a few facts about bilingual education, although I think a lot of you probably know quite a bit about bilingual education already. About 5% of the state's 976,000 students are what's defined as LEP, or Limited English Proficient. And basically that means that English is not their first language. And there are about 69 different languages spoken in our schools. Spanish is the most widespread, but other languages include Portuguese, Chinese, Vietnamese, Khmer, Korean, Russian, French, Creole, Greek, and Arabic. And that's just a few. Under current state law, a district must provide bilingual education classes when it has at least 20 students that have the same native language. Students can take classes in their native language for up to 3 years before they're moved into regular education classrooms. All other students with limited English skills are taking English as a second language classes, which are taught only in English. And as I'm sure many of you already know, which is why you may be here this evening, there are several efforts to change bilingual education in Massachusetts. And under the proposal supported by Mr. Untz, which we'll be discussing tonight, students whose first language is something other than English would be placed in intense English classes for a year before they're placed in regular education. And Mr. Untz, along with many Massachusetts residents, and some of whom may be in this hall tonight, have been collecting signatures and apparently have enough to place the measure on the ballot for 2002 to let voters decide whether to change bilingual education. And that's something he's done successfully in California and Arizona. The format for tonight's debate will allow each speaker up to 8 minutes to give opening remarks. Then each will have 3 minutes of rebuttal time to respond to the other statements. After that, I'll have a few questions for each of them, and then we'll open it up to the audience. As Dottie says, we don't have a microphone, but we will figure out some sort of way so that everyone, or as many people as possible, will be able to participate in some sort of orderly fashion. So now it's time to hear from our panelists, and we'll start with Mr. Untz.